Hey everybody, Joe Malizia here with Real Talk with Joe. I have my good friend, YouTuber, videographer, all about creative entrepreneur, Tyler Harrington with Ty and Ash Harrington videographers, wedding videographers, with all things video and creative content. So
That's right.
Ty, welcome to the show, my friend.
Hey man, how's it going? I'm so excited to be here. I feel like in this quarantine life, this type of thing is more normal, but I feel like I'm still missing a lot of human interaction. So if nothing else comes from this conversation, at least you and I will get to connect for an hour
Seriously.
here.
And if you guys can't tell, the difference of the quality of production. Okay, Ty's got this sweet setup that he's going to talk about. I got your not even Pomans, but just real world like typical iPod, old iPhone, because it's like the original plug that they don't
That's right.
lightning cord that they don't even make anymore. So
it's all part of the narrative that I'm spinning.
Exactly.
Here, it's all part of my aura.
This is what we're getting at here, people. It's not about what you're doing; it's how you're going about doing it and what you're sharing. So this is great. I love the fact that this is our reality. So if you guys are logging on, please come with questions. If you have any type of questions or comments, feel free to add them to the conversation. Ty and I will be fielding them and just engaging in the conversation with you all, because we know that the value for you all is what your engagement is. So if you engage, we get to serve you, come alongside of you, encourage you. And in a time where businesses are really both thriving and struggling, both are happening in this season, we want to come alongside of you. And we want to just kind of talk about one way to do that, which is through YouTube and podcasting. So Ty, just talk about yourself, man. Who are you? What do you do? What makes you a tech pro in this YouTube thing and this podcast thing?
Ooh, that is a loaded question. So Joe, before this, he prefaced me. He's like, "You've got to talk yourself up a little bit. You got to tell the people what's going on." So I'm like, "All right, I'll try." So it's the tech thing is funny because that goes back as long as I can remember. I remember before I got my first ever cell phone, spending hours, researching flip phones, like looking them up on the websites. Like they had all these comparison charts where they'd show you how big the phone was next to like a deck of cards and next to like a hammer and all these different things, and spending all this time researching and learning. And that is something I think that just goes like that's just built inside of me, and that's just how my brain works. So I've been interested in tech as long as I can remember. But in terms of like personal stuff, professional stuff, I've been kind of like the photography guy for a long time. When I actually have a degree in graphic design. My wife and I got married. We started doing the business together. I started in college. So we were primarily wedding photographers and videographers for the last 7 years or so. And kind of along the way, I've also gained this reputation for being kind of like a tech guru and being into tech stuff, mostly because I just like learning new hobbies and new activities. And those things look like YouTube channels and podcasts and learning about the newest phone or whatever it may be. So I'm both am an avid user of these platforms, and then in turn, kind of out of fun and just messing around, started using them and then learning more about them. And so over the course of 10 years, I've grown this base of knowledge about YouTube and podcasting and tech. And and honestly, when it comes to my business, the primary thing that we do, like Joe was saying, is we're filmmakers and videographers. And I think is really interesting, and that most people don't know about me, is that I am completely self-taught when it comes to everything video related. I took
crazy.
Yeah, I think I took maybe one video class as part of my degree in college. I have like I said, a graphic design degree. I also took a bunch of photography classes in college. But in terms of video and a lot of podcasting, all this sort of stuff, everything I know is through YouTube, podcasts, the internet, things like that. So I know how to not only create that content, but also I am the product of that content, which I think is a pretty cool place to be.
A full circle story, really.
Yeah, for sure.
Gosh, I mean, Ty, like, how do you keep up with this stuff? Like, it seems like for most people, like, technology is constantly changing. The benefits of it are constantly shifting and everything else. How do you keep up to date with all of this information? It's information overload, and the internet's full of stuff. So like, what do you tell people? I'm a business owner. I want to shift my business. Where do I even start the process of, let's start with YouTube. Let's start there. Okay. And then we'll go to podcast.
Sure.
So I want to start my YouTube channel, which I literally just did through these conversations. Never had one before, right?
Yeah.
Watched a lot of YouTube. I'm a great consumer of YouTube,
Yeah.
like most people here. And so, I welcome it, but like, where does one start? If I own a business, I know it's something that everybody's doing, but I don't know what it really would do for me. Where do I go?
Yeah. So I think first of all, it comes down to the way that you use YouTube. And I think that there's kind of two different ways that people use YouTube primarily. There's the person who they have a problem, they go to YouTube, they search for a specific video, watch that video, and then they're done. Like that's their extent of how they use YouTube. A lot of times, people use Google kind of in the same way. You go to Google, you find what you're looking for, and then you're done. The way that I use YouTube and the way that I think that is the best way to use YouTube as kind of like a knowledge tool is to use it in kind of the way it's actually intended to, which is logging in with your Google account and subscribing to YouTube channels. So being really strategic about the YouTube channels that you subscribe to. So I have lots of different passions and things that I'm interested in across, a wide variety of everything under the sun. But I subscribe to some very specific and intentional YouTube channels based off of these different things. And once you build up this subscription base in your YouTube channel, your YouTube subscription box, basically every time someone posts a new video, it'll show up in your subscription feed. So for me, it's almost like watching personalized catered TV that's specific to exactly what I want. So I follow lots of different channels. So every day when I log into YouTube, I'm not just seeing random cat videos or random videos that YouTube is, pumping through the algorithm. I'm seeing all of the ones that I've chosen to subscribe to, every video that they're putting out. So some channels I watch, they put out a video once a week. So I know that every Wednesday there's going to be a new Hot Ones episode, right? Which is a show I like to watch. Where they interview celebrities and they eat scorching hot chicken wings, right? So every Wednesday I know
that is a YouTube channel.
Yeah, or Thursday, or maybe it's Thursday. And I know once a week there's going to be a new Hot Ones episode that's coming out. I know to expect that. Some of the tech channels that I follow, they post videos, more frequently, especially if there's new tech news, things like that. So after a while of having this sort of constant flow of the information that you're interested in based off of your topic of interest, you'll start to really be able to stay on top of these different trends. So for me, I follow lots of different tech channels, some that are Apple specific, some that aren't, all these different things. So when a new Apple product comes out, or when there's a keynote for Apple, I go into my YouTube channel or my YouTube subscription box, and it's, 15 different videos of all different types of viewpoints and all different types of styles and all these different things, all about the newest Apple product. So I, just because I'm interested in those things, watch a handful of these videos, 5 or 6 of them over, 30, 40 minutes, whatever it may be, while I'm laying in bed or sometimes while I'm doing the dishes, whatever it may be. Yeah. And now I know everything there is to know about the latest Apple launch because I watch these videos. So I think that whatever your topic of interest is, if you can start to utilize YouTube in this way, so not just going and finding the one-off video, but really utilizing that subscription functionality of it and finding a handful of different people that have really good quality content on a regular basis, that's when it kind of starts to become really, really powerful.
Yeah. So subscribing, which is really like the user. So if I watch Ty's Tech Line, which has information about technology of all sorts that could be helpful or whatever, one thing I can do is just go to your website, your Ty's Tech Line on
my
YouTube
channel,
subscribe to it, which is basically my way of saying I want to be notified of Ty's actions on this channel. So anytime you post something new, I want to get notified via email. I want to see it pop up on my...
So there's two specific. So when you subscribe, so you have on my YouTube channel or my YouTube, sorry, this gets confusing. So like my personal YouTube account, which is just like Tyler, which is just tyler.harrington@gmail.com, like my personal Gmail account, right?
Yeah.
If I go to YouTube and I go to my subscriptions, every time somebody who I subscribe to posts a new video, it shows up in my feed. So in one day, I might see 20, 30, 40 videos in that day. I don't watch all of them, but every time someone posts a new video, I see it in my feed. You can also turn on notifications for specific channels that you really don't want to miss. And that way you will have to be notified. So for me, I have, push notifications turned on my phone through the YouTube app for specific channels, like 4 or 5 maybe, that I know I'm going to watch every single video no matter what.
Yeah.
So for those, when every time they post a video, I get a push notification. So yeah.
Gotcha. So that's really one of the things that, the subscribing. And if I'm a business owner, how can what do I need to do to get people to subscribe? Like what action steps do you tell people and coach people to really, because the subscribers are pretty important in terms of like the YouTube juices, and that's probably not the right term, but that's the term that I'm going to go with for
Yes,
this
yes, the
conversation.
juices. Yeah, so that's the thing. So it's interesting. So YouTube is it's a beast. And the thing about YouTube is you have to play YouTube's game, right? If you want to be successful on YouTube, you've got to understand the rules and you've got to play the game. So with YouTube, yeah, subscribers definitely matter. But because YouTube is the second largest search engine in the world behind Google, and Google owns YouTube. So between those two combined, you can be discovered by people who don't subscribe to you as well. So it's just kind of two different levels of people who are going to be finding you. But the goal would be, right? The nice thing about YouTube is you're going to have the benefits of both. So you put out a video that may be very targeted at specific keywords. So whatever that may be for your niche or for whatever it is that you're interested in, you can have this video that's targeting these keywords. And yes, a few people may randomly stumble upon this video because they may have Googled, you know, how to fix my marriage or whatever, right? And they may find one of your videos and they may not know anything about you, but you may have, a catchy headline, a catchy title and a nice thumbnail, and they click on your video.
Yeah.
The goal would
and
be
the thumbnail is that picture that people see.
Yes.
Still picture.
Yes.
Still picture.
So the gift and the curse, I guess, of YouTube is that the thumbnail and the title, they play together. You have to think of them as a pair, and they're very, very, very important, for better or for worse.
Right.
But the goal would be, somebody would click on your video, watch your video that would be, relevant to whatever question that they ask, and be like, man, I really love this Joe guy. I love his personality. I love the way that he explains things. Let me go look at some other videos that he has. Then they click on your profile. They go to your YouTube channel. They see, this backlog of videos that you have, and they're like, man, all these videos that he has are really relevant. Like, they're speaking right to me. I'm going to subscribe to this guy. I want to see when he has a new video that comes out, right? That's kind of the goal. That's one way, of gaining subscribers.
Yeah.
And that, to me, I think is kind of the best case scenario, because that person is interested in what you're looking for or in what you're putting out. So in that scenario, that's why it's really important to play the game right from the beginning, even if you don't have very many views. Maybe you're posting some videos and you're only getting 10, 11, 20 views, whatever it may be, right? The goal is, 3 months from now, you get that one video that can, pops off, hits the algorithm just right, and all these people are finding your channel. If the channel looks professional, if the channel has, lots of different videos that are all relevant, all the thumbnails look consistent, right? Those like little things like that. Even if you only have 50 subscribers or 60 subscribers, somebody who finds you is going to be a lot more likely to subscribe and say, oh yeah, this Joe guy, he seems like he knows what he's talking about, versus maybe they do find that one video that's really good. They go to your channel and it looks like a hot mess. There's a bunch of random stuff on there. You've got like home videos, all this sort of stuff, like, oh, this is just like a fluke. It was just kind of one good video from this guy, that kind of a thing. So it's a long-term play, and it's why it's important to like understand from the beginning. And that's why I do think it's really important for somebody who's interested in YouTube, pursuing it or learning how to do it, is to be on the other side of it, right? Be the person who's watching these different channels, making these decisions, subscribing to different videos. Again, even if maybe you like hiking, start looking up hiking videos and figure out, okay, which videos am I clicking on? Why did I click on this video and not that video? Why am I interested in this content versus that content or whatever? So the more that you can do that, the more you can learn on how, when you go to make your own channel, start making your own content, the things that you should be doing and the things to avoid.
We had the question from Toby Clem, who owns 2700 Cleaning Services, which shout out to that business. Awesome cleaning service / like power washing / great people. Tobes asked the question, is there an optimal video length to be able to transcribe to a blog or split into smaller bits of content on Facebook / Instagram, etc.? Good question, Tobes.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So that's the interesting thing about YouTube. So again, we could do an entire series, Joe, on the specifics of YouTube. But there's lots of things that YouTube values, and one of them is watch time. So there's this fine balance between how long your video is, and so if it's too short, you're not going to have very high watch time minutes, watch time hours, if every video is only like a minute or 30 seconds or whatever. But if it's too long and someone's only watching 12% of the video, that's not good either. So you got to kind of find that happy medium. The kind of like general like golden rule for YouTube is over 10 minutes, less than like 15 is kind of like the sweet spot. But there's plenty of videos out there that are 40 some odd minutes that perform really well. You have to have really engaging content for that. It's more, I'd say, the style. So for YouTube, the beginning, the first like 10 seconds and then the first like minute are super, super crucial. So you want to spend as much time like thinking about that and being strategic about that time as possible. Because when someone clicks on your video, they're going to make a pretty quick decision whether or not they want to continue watching. So if you have a thumbnail and a title that talk about one thing, but then your intro is either really boring or talks about something completely different, they're most likely going to bounce off, right? There's a really high bounce rate. People's engagement or their retention is very, very low. So you want to really hook them in that first like 10, 15 seconds. And then in that first minute, you need to really set them up to want to stay around. But in terms of using the content from YouTube on other platforms, that's definitely a great idea. Something like Instagram, obviously a 10-minute long video would not do as well in your Instagram stories. So pulling out the best 15 seconds to a minute to put on your Instagram is really smart. Cropping things in to be the native resolutions and the native, like the proper aspect ratios for all these different platforms is also really good. And in terms of blogging is a really great tool to kind of like supercharge your YouTube videos. Again, because Google owns YouTube. If you make a YouTube video and then take that same YouTube video and you embed it in a blog post and you write, 300 or so words around that YouTube video that are all very keyword specific to the topic of that video, then that's going to be like an SEO boost for that, because Google is not only seeing it in YouTube with all these keywords, also the same keywords on, Google itself is finding them. And it's seeing that they're talking to each other, and it's going to make the Google algorithms very happy. So the juices will be flowing, as Joe would say. So yeah.
How about the juices, baby?
Hopefully that answers that question. It's kind of a nuanced answer. I would say like for YouTube, like 10 to 15 minutes is the golden rule, but I would say it needs to be as long as it needs to be. So it shouldn't be any longer than it needs to be, and it shouldn't be any shorter. Like it needs to be just as long as the content is calls for. So if it's stuff that's dragging or stuff that's unnecessary, whatever, take it out. But if it's all really good stuff and it's engaging, it's keeping people's attention, then it can be as long as it needs to be.
Nice. Toby said boom. So I think we got some good
Perfect.
clarity. Great question though, man. Miss Mary Pitts asked the question. So I'm not polished. Does casual work? Also, can you post with less than professional equipment? Mary, if there's one thing that's very evident in this conversation, you are looking at the less professional person. So
yes.
Ty, I think, took a shower. Not only does he take a shower, he has beautiful equipment, and here I am.
That's
interviewing the man.
This is my life, and this makes I was telling Joe, this makes me very happy. It's a long story. I got this webcam situation set up today with my real camera, and this just brings joy to my heart. And this is one of those things where people ask like, "Oh, like why are you so into tech?" I'm like, I don't know. It's just like it makes me happy. So the answer, but yes, the 100% yes. So when it comes to we're kind of talking a little bit about YouTube and podcasting. YouTube is definitely a little bit more complicated to get in terms of equipment, because you're dealing with both video and audio, and both of those are very important. Podcasting, I would say, would be easier if you're like super casual. You don't want to have to do with as much tech. You want to be able to just start creating content. Podcasting is going to be a little bit easier to kind of just jump in. But in terms of being casual or polished or whatever, yes, 100%. It's all about knowing who your audience is and catering to that specific audience. So I think a lot of people have maybe a bad image in their mind when they think of YouTubers. They're like, hey, what's up, man? Like smash that subscribe button, blah, blah. Like that's what they think of as YouTubers. And right. Yes, there are YouTubers who are like that. And that is a style and genre of YouTube that is popular, I guess, between a certain age group and demographic. But not every single YouTube video is like that. The other day I was trying to clean my my coffee carafe, that I used. It had lots of like residue inside of it. I was trying to clean it. So I went to YouTube and I learned, how to clean a coffee carafe. And there was some lady that was on there who I have no idea who she was or where she's from. It wasn't even of her face. It was just of her hands. She was not very interesting, but she had some great information on how to clean the coffee carafe. And I followed her steps and watched her video, and it worked like a charm. And that video was, I think, 3 or 4 years old, and it had like 350,000 views, because I'm not the only one who has this problem, I guess. So, it's all about kind of knowing what you're going for. And I think if you're going to be casual, you want to kind of like lean into that. But there's a difference between being casual and being uninteresting. So it's a matter of kind of like finding that balance and understanding what that looks like. But I know like Ash, my wife, her granny watches lots of quilting YouTube videos, right? Which to me are, in terms of like personality, are maybe a little lacking. But in terms of like quilting content and being helpful and helping her with her different patterns and stitches and whatever, they're really great and she loves them. So, if you're putting out good content and you have good things to say, you don't have to be overly charismatic. You just got to make sure that you have one or the other, or both.
Yeah. And Mary is a real estate agent and owns her own as a brokerage and everything. So, I mean, she actually just there could be some diff, and it's the content, that you kind of mentioned, Ty, but it really, Mary, if there's one thing that I can say from a coaching lens, it's what are you interested in? Or what are your clients really wanting to know from the questions that they're asking whenever you're doing a walkthrough, right? Like I know whenever I was a real estate agent, I just took people through the house just because, in times of quarantine, nobody's really allowed to go into some of the houses, and some people are a little weird about it. So I just made videos, soon, checked with the seller, just got creative into what could be done. I mean, like Ty is saying, a coffee pot clean is something that is interesting to people. And I remember you posting that. Like, not only did you watch the whole thing,
I posted about it. Yeah,
you posted about it, and people.
And I got lots of engagement about that. People are more interested in that than they are about a lot of the tech stuff I post. So I would say a couple things. One, a good way to practice is using something like Instagram stories. I think Instagram stories are very good like tool to cut your teeth in terms of being on camera, like performing on camera, whatever that may be. And because they're kind of low risk, they go away after 24 hours and, you just need your phone. You don't need anything else. You can just start talking and practicing that element of being on camera, doing that right away. Right. So that's a good place to kind of just do it every day, watch yourself back, kind of critique yourself, say, okay, what could I do better? Do I need to smile more? Do I need to change my tone more? Like, what are some things I need to do? And that's like the first thing. But then the other thing is, I think it's, we're talking a lot about, strategy and views and subscribers and all these things, which, are important to a certain extent. But I think that we can get wrapped up in that too easily sometimes. And really, we just need to focus on who we're trying to reach. As a real estate agent, right, you don't necessarily need to go out there and have this YouTube channel with 1 million subscribers, right? You just need to sell a handful of houses every year, and that's what you need to do, and reach new buyers or sellers or whatever, right? So in those, or both, right? But in that case, having this backlog of content is just a really great way of, like you said, when someone finds you, and maybe they come to your office or they find you through LinkedIn or whatever it may be, if you can send them to your YouTube channel and they can really quickly learn about your personality, you seem like a pro on the topic, you have all these different videos that are really helpful to them, things that they may want to know about selling their house, all these things that just are a demonstration of your knowledge and your expertise in the field. Even if you have 12 subscribers, it doesn't matter to this one specific client because they're getting a ton of value out of these things. So even if you're not winning with the algorithm, and even if your videos have a ton of views, it can still be something really valuable to your business if you're able to use it strategically and have that be a place that you can kind of send people to answer commonly asked questions or answer questions they may not even know they have through these videos. And like we were saying, it's showing off your personality and allows you to show, hey, I'm not just a stiff real estate agent. I'm a fun real estate agent, or whatever.
Mary Pitt said, "A handful? Question mark." Dude, I want to sell them all. Which, Mary, that's a good attitude. That's the attitude. If you can literally, it's not a matter of how do we bring it to the camera.
I'm not gonna lie, I don't know a lot about real estate.
Yeah, this is the reason why Ty's not in real estate either.
Yeah. When I think of a handful, I guess it's kind of relative, I suppose. But yeah, you're not gonna sell like, wait, how many houses do you normally sell in a year? I don't know. Like, I don't know.
Mary and I will have that conversation. That's a lot more fun. Yeah. But I mean, honestly, Ty, like now we're having some questions about, so what I'm hearing for the YouTube stuff is, if I want to learn as a business owner, subscribe, look up other people that are doing it maybe, because I can really just copy paste, because frankly, there's plenty to go around. Like don't copyright anybody's stuff. However,
Right.
if you're seeing somebody do something really well on the West Coast, they're not your competition on the East Coast. They're just not.
Yeah, and not even within your own niche. I would say just like start using YouTube for, like I said, things you're passionate about, and you'll learn
Mhm.
a lot about different styles and things like, oh, I really like the way that this person does. You know, every single time I watch this person's knitting video, she says the same thing at the beginning of the video. I think that's really nice. Like I really like, you know, that makes me feel like I'm right at home. I'm gonna think of a tagline for my YouTube channel. So like every time someone comes on, they're gonna know what to expect, right? You can like learn, like pick up on these little nuggets.
Yeah.
So you're not only watching, you kind of have to like switch your brain back and forth between being just like a consumer and just absorbing it, but then
Mhm.
also flipping on like your magnifying glass and saying, okay, what do I like really specifically about this? What is something that this person's doing really well? Or if you get to something that turns you off completely, instead of just like clicking off of it, like, hold on, okay, what don't I like about this? What is turning me off about
Yeah.
this person or this vibe or whatever? And I mean, I'll send you this list, Joe. We can share it with everybody if they want. There are YouTube channels about how to make a YouTube channel. That you should definitely check that out as like a good place to start. But then yeah, looking at your competition, looking at other things that are just like not even related, and kind of pulling from all of them and figuring out what's going to make the most sense for you and what
Yeah.
type of content you want to create.
Yeah. So follow somebody and then really then start just creating something. Just be in front of the camera with your phone. No need
Yeah.
to, you don't need to buy fancy stuff like
No, the phones that we have today, whatever phone is in your pocket, is 10 times better at shooting video than the most expensive camera, not the most expensive, than very expensive cameras from even 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Like it's pretty incredible. So
Yeah.
you can definitely get away with starting with your phone. Again, what you're saying and how you're saying is more important. So that's why I say it's actually more important to do the research into like what makes a good YouTube video in terms of the flow, how you're organizing the information, those types of things I'd say is more important than the camera or the audio or whatever. Yeah, there's some microphones that you could get that would kind of help make things a little bit better. But don't let that stop you. Like you're saying, just get out there, start creating. The only way you're going to get better is just by doing it. And
Yeah.
you'll kind of pick up all that stuff over time. It's more important. And the stuff that's easy to control is like the titles and the tags and the thumbnails, like all those things. If you really want to pursue it, like you can learn about all those things on YouTube on how to do them and start doing that well from the beginning. And then you can learn with the tech stuff down the road.
Yeah. And one of the things that, I always do for myself whenever I do these videos or whenever I do like my own video is I just get very clear on what do I want people to come like take away from this? Like if there's one message that I want
Yep.
people to get, if whenever I was in real estate, I just wanted people to see the house. So I just wanted them to remember that this house is for sale. Whenever I'm coaching now, it's like, is there a principle? Is there a thought that I'm really getting after? Like feedback. Okay, so I can give example after example from feedback or what that could look like. But ultimately, all the things that I'm saying, all the ways in which I'm interacting with the camera are bringing the lesson of which I'm committed to communicating or, expressing is going back to what I want to happen. So that's one thing that I could really stress. It goes back to what Ty's been saying. Do the research. Do know what you're getting for because the how-tos are can be learned, assuming you know where you're going.
Yeah.
Assuming you're knowing who you're committed to being in the conversation. Like that's what people are going to remember.
Yeah, and
they're
it's
not going
gonna
to know. They're not going to remember your opening line. They
right.
just remember that you were honest and sincere, and
and it's gonna ebb and flow. And the stuff you make at the beginning is not going to be as good as the stuff you make a year from now or 5 years from now or whatever. It's just not, and that's fine. But yeah, you just got to get there and you've got to start. It's never going to be perfect. If you're waiting for it to be perfect, then it's never going to happen. So yeah, just get out there with what you've got and you'll grow over time. Even Joe, like you said, you doing this, guys, Joe literally called me. It was probably, I don't know, a couple weeks ago now.
No,
and
it was
he's
like a couple
Ty,
days ago. It was like last week.
No, not that. He was like, Ty, it was awful. Like, I need some help. He's like, I tried to do this thing. It was like his first one he did. He's like, it was a train wreck. It was awful. I had all these tech issues. All these things went wrong. It was terrible, whatever.
Shout out to Chris Campbell from Campbell Accounting for just being my guinea pig and my good friend. Thank you, Jesus, for Chris.
Right. But he just did it, right? And then it wasn't perfect. He learned from his mistakes. He tweaked some things. He made some adjustments and he came back the next week and did it again. And it was better. And every week you're getting better and more confident and more comfortable. And we've got all these fancy things all over the screen. And like, look at us go.
Things. I don't even know what I'm doing.
Yeah. So yeah, you just got to start and it's not going to be perfect. And that's the beauty of it is that it doesn't have to be.
Right. And people will still, and people can actually see the sincerity of learning the process. Everybody that everybody who's looked at these videos, I mean, I'm a work in progress, guys. So, I mean, just turn on your phone. Hey, everybody, look like an idiot as your neighbors are watching you do it. Like, it's awkward, it's weird, but you know what? These will lead to dollars later. It just does. That's what, I saw somebody post on Instagram, I think, YouTube is a free employee. I mean, if you think about it, they're constantly advertising for you. You're asleep. YouTube is still there. Google is still there. And if you are willing to put in the work of looking at your camera awkwardly, showing what's going on, talking about what's important, what people are going to hold to be valuable and helpful, people are going to be online at 3 o'clock in the morning with their screaming baby and looking at you and your face and go, oh, this is helpful content. Like at 3 a.m. and you did nothing.
Yeah, and made money. It's one of the best ways to reach your perfect audience, because traditional marketing in terms of like a commercial or an ad in newspaper or a mailer or whatever, you have no idea who you're sending those to. 9 times out of 10.
Yeah.
Random. And I remember Ash loves to watch the morning news. I've never really been that kind of person, but Ash loves it. So we watch the morning news, and it's just tons of commercials that people spent tons of money on that have zero relevance to my life whatsoever. Absolutely none. Like, they spent tons of money, and I'm sure somebody out there maybe is getting benefit from it, but like, I don't need COPD medicine. Like, what, I don't even know what that is. I don't need that, right? But I see it every single morning, right? YouTube, the beauty of it is like, that this time and whatever that you're investing in this platform is not going to waste. Like, it's going towards the person who's looking for what you have to put out there, and that it's going to be something that speaks like directly to them. If you utilize these things, you get in front of the right people, and you just have like the entire internet at your fingertips. I have a video that I posted, at this point now, I think it was like three years ago, I would say. And the first week, it got like 100 views, and I was like, oh, I was kind of disappointed about it. I kind of forgot about it. Stopped checking the analytics. Eventually, 3 months later, I look at it, and I'm like, oh, this video is kind of starting to pick up and get some views. And then something happened. I don't know. It hit the algorithm just right. And for some reason, every day now, I get probably a couple thousand views on this video, and it's up to almost 300,000 views on YouTube, right? And I haven't done anything. I made the video one time 3 years ago, and every single day, hundreds, if not thousands of people see that video, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that's always going to happen. It's not guaranteed. I have a lot of videos that didn't happen, but at least you have the possibility. The mailer that you send to Joe Schmo on the corner is never going to be seen by 300,000 people. It's just not, right? Especially not for free. So,
yeah. So that's YouTube. We just be willing to risk, get clear on. So find people that are doing it. Take the risk, get clear on what you want to communicate. Just know where you're going.
Yep.
Open the phone and be willing to go for it. Really, this is basic stuff, guys, because we all think that it takes a professional to do the things that we're doing. It's not true. Everybody that you're seeing on YouTube now who's a sensation has done the idiotic movies and shows before. Every one of them.
Yep.
There's not one of them that's an exception to it. And so it's really something that in this time of growth for businesses, as we all now shift and pivot to what growth looks like now in post COVID world, let's start doing that by literally starting with this little device that everybody has and everybody's looking on, and subscribe, and encourage, share your platform on your blog or on your email list, your social platforms. Like, if people don't know what they don't know. So
right. If you want a place to start in terms of like, oh, what do I make? Because that's like the next question I get is like, oh, what type of content should I create? What type of video should I do? I always say start with whatever questions you get asked the most. If you work as a realtor and you get the same question asked to you every single week over and over again from every single buyer, every single seller, whatever it may be, make a video about it, right? Just pick one question. With YouTube, it's one topic, one question, or one topic, one video, right? One really, like, you can narrow it down as specifically as possible. So if one question is, which is more important to sell my house, new windows or new siding, right? If say you get that question all the time, you sit down and explain it for 10 minutes, break down some of the numbers, show some of the different things. I don't know, whatever it may be, whatever your answer to that would be, answer it as in-depthly as possible, give the best possible response you can give. And then from now on, if anybody ever asks you that question again, you just send them the video and they have this really good explanation. And if you're getting that question every day, you guarantee there's people out there who are searching for it. So just start with that. And that's like a really good place to start and grow. And then ideally, you have comments on these different questions. You're always getting new questions. Every time you get a new question, make a new video, right? It can be that simple. So yeah, that's where I would start.
The one thing that Toby Clem just asked is, can you highlight the best flow for a 12 to 15 minute video? Can you do that like in a brief? Because I want to go to the next. There's like two more questions I really want to hop to. So
sure, yeah.
What's the
so I would say, like, again, when they look at the title and the thumbnail, they have an idea what the video is about. You need to reinforce that this video is actually about those things in the first 10 to 15 seconds, right? Give them a reason to stick around. Either agitate a problem, give them a promise, like whatever. Like, I'm going to solve this one problem in this video, right? Then you can kind of go into a little bit like who you are, et cetera, et cetera. And then I think of it almost kind of like writing a research paper, which I hate writing research papers, but it's sort of like you have your hook, and then you have your sort of like intro thesis of like what this whole video is about, what you can expect to find, especially if you have like multiple points. I'm going to give you 5 reasons why siding is better than windows. I don't know, right? Whatever, that sort of thing. And then just jump into your points. From that point on, if they're interested, they're probably going to stick around. You want to lead with like good content, maybe like save the best for last. But you don't want to have like really bad stuff at the beginning. But you want to get into it as fast as possible. That's the only like real tip I would say in like a short response would be if the valuable content doesn't come until like the 6 or 7 minute mark of your video, because you've been giving so much like backstory and whatever, you're gonna lose people's interest. People drop off really quickly. So just like get into it, tell them what you're going to tell them within the first, like start within the first minute, I think is a good like thing to shoot for in terms of getting into the content. And then from there, take as much time as you need to explain it well, without rambling or adding fluff or whatever. And remember, editing is your friend. You don't have to nail it perfectly in camera, but you can edit out things if you start rambling or going off course. So you're like, this like 2 minutes was kind of boring and then I didn't really say anything. Just edit it out, right? That's fine, right? Just use that as your friend.
Yeah, the nice thing about YouTube is you can both do the live stuff, or you can just record, do it however way you want to, edit it accordingly, and you don't have to do the ums or the uhs or the whatever things that people just do whenever they talk.
And editing doesn't have to be fancy. You don't have to do fancy effects or whatever, but like that, like taking out 2 minutes of useless content is the most valuable thing that you can do. Is way more valuable than having like a fancy thing that kind of like slides in with your Instagram handle, right? Like just take out the stuff that doesn't need to be there, have just the best of the best, and that alone will get you really far.
Yeah. Podcasting, I want to shift gears.
Okay.
So
let's do it.
Obviously YouTube, super valuable and necessary for almost any business these days. Podcasting is now this new phenomenon. It was popular before COVID, and then now both these platforms have just, crazy numbers.
Yeah.
I saw a study that, according to some numbers, there are like 112 million people are aware of, podcasting. That's a lot of dollars at stake. That's a lot of listening ears. And that was before COVID. And so now here we are going, holy geesh. What do you say about podcasts, my friend? What's your wisdom? What's your experience? Go.
Yeah. So podcasting and YouTube are, I think people like group them together. Like in this talk, we have like YouTube and podcasts, but like in my mind, they're like almost polar opposites. So with YouTube, right, the advantage of YouTube is you have this wide net, right? You have all these different people because it's under Google and it's easier to be discovered. You put out a good video with a good topic and good information, 500,000 people could find it. 1 million people could find it, right? Podcasting is kind of the opposite, where discovery on podcasts is frankly like pretty terrible. It's really hard to have a new podcast be discovered. Like you're not just going to create a podcast for like someone random just to kind of stumble upon you. So the scenario we gave with your stuff, Joe, where someone searches on YouTube, how to fix my marriage, and they find your video, that type of thing doesn't really happen with podcasting. Not as much, right?
Right.
Most podcasts that you probably listen to have been recommended to you by a friend, right? Sometimes you'll be browsing through Apple's like top whatever list and you'll maybe find something if you're really like dedicated to finding a new podcast. But then at that point, it's kind of like buying a bottle of wine is how I think of it. You're just like picking based off the label. You have no idea. You're like, I don't know. You're like, this one's only $12 and has a cool label. So like, let's try it. Right. Which is like good to know. But with podcasting, it's all about depth, right? So the audience that you grow from a podcast is going to be super, super, most likely narrow, just like in all reality, but very, very, very deep because they're spending a lot of time with you. They're really invested in what you're talking about and what you're doing. And it's just kind of like a deeper level of connection. I have some podcasts I've been listening to religiously for 3 or 4 years, and I literally feel like I know these people. Like I feel like I know everything about them and about their lives, because when you do stuff like this, longer form content, stuff just comes out. There's just more to be said. It's a very different style of conversation. It's a different style of topic. It's just different. Which is not bad, right? It's just you need to know that like if you're creating a podcast, like all these people will find out who you are. That's not necessarily the route that I would suggest going. And you're most likely going to have to capitalize on the audience that you already have. But the people who do listen to your podcast, even if it is only 20, 30 people a week, are going to be your most loyal, most dedicated fans and are going to really connect with you on like that super, super deep level. And it'll be the people who are going to be out there telling other people about you and things like that.
Yeah. To hear that the distant, like the difference, because you're right. I think even I've been guilty of putting the two together. Like, oh, I'll just into it. It's like, may not be helpful, especially whenever you're saying, watch this. Like,
right. Yeah, they're just
it.
Yeah. So it's the other thing too is you're fighting for two very different pieces of people's time, right? It's actually podcasting. I think is actually easier to get people's time because with a podcast, you can listen to it while you're in the car, while you're on a run, while you're doing the dishes, while you're mowing the lawn, like whatever it may be. I listen to podcasts in the shower. People think that's weird, but that's the reality of my life, right? Like you can listen to podcasts anywhere and you don't have to dedicate like all of your eyeballs and all of your attention and everything that you're doing onto this specific thing. Whereas with a YouTube video, you're asking somebody most of the time to stop everything else that they're doing in their life, stop scrolling on Instagram, stop mowing the lawn, stop doing whatever, and watch this piece of content with all of your attention for 10 minutes, 12 minutes, 13 minutes, whatever, right? And those are two very different approaches. It's just two very different ways of consuming content. And most people, honestly, don't have more than 30, 40 minutes probably to give like full dedicated time a day. I mean, I guess it depends. And if you like, I watch YouTube instead of watching TV, so I maybe have like a little bit more time. But most people, when they're on the subway or in their car, you can't really watch a YouTube video in your car. Right. So that's just like something really interesting to know. And like you're saying, podcasts are definitely on the rise. So something really interesting that's just happened is that Spotify is like doubling down and trying to really get into the podcasting game. And up until this point, the ad structure for podcasting has been very interesting with YouTube, right? Once you reach a certain threshold in terms of subscribers and minutes watched and things like that, you can start running ads on your YouTube videos. So it's complicated the way that it works, but basically every time someone watches your video, they run an ad. However valuable YouTube dubs that ad to be, you get a certain percentage of that. And then if you get enough views, you can get dollars, right? Like in a year, I'll make like $3,000 from my YouTube channel, right? Which I can't live off of, but it's $3,000. Like
didn't have before,
right? I didn't have before, right?
Yeah.
So obviously, the more videos you have and the more views that you're getting, like the more that you're going to accrue. So there are some people who can live off of that, but not really. Podcasting's never really had that. When you hear an ad read on a podcast, that's kind of been the extent of the advertising on podcasts. So Casper Mattresses pays Joe $15 to do an ad read on here, and they talk about X, Y, and Z. You have to say a certain thing.
Feel free to right that opportunity.
Right. Yeah. Casper, if you're out there, we are open. We are open to
open to advertising opportunities.
Open to advertising opportunities. Right. And that's kind of the way it's been. But the hard thing is that with YouTube, right? YouTube can see everybody who watches the other videos that they've watched. They have all this data on you, right? So it's really valuable to advertisers, where podcast hasn't had that until recently, where they bought Anchor, which is a a app that you can get for your phone where you can create podcasts right on your phone. So Spotify is like doubled down by buying Anchor, and they're starting to implement a YouTube style ad system into the podcasting world. So podcasts in the next like 3 to 5 years, I would say, are about to see a really big change in terms of how advertising is done, how they're sort of monetized, all these different things. But I would say going into podcasting, it's more of a indirect ROI than it is like a very direct ROI like you'd see from Facebook ads or YouTube or something like that.
Yeah. So really that's a really, I mean, it goes back to, once again, people, you just need this thing to really do both YouTube and podcasting. It doesn't require heavy investment of lighting, production. You know, if we're willing to stop the excuses, that's the one thing I you know, the people that are starting businesses right now are not spending all their money on production gear. In fact, they have spent $0 on production gear, and they've just been producing content, and they're doing it through these channels like YouTube, where there is a direct payoff if you do it right and are willing to study it a little bit more. And then even going into some of the podcasting, the deeper conversations, because that's what people want to go. That's what people are doing in their car. They're looking for the deeper conversation, they're looking for the further explanation of, hey, why do I care about sewing or buying a house or, you know, saving my marriage? I don't know, whatever the case may be. Like, if people, you have a listening ear in those situations to really show your stuff, but you also in the YouTube space have a real opportunity to display it. And
it just comes down to, like, again, knowing the difference between the two platforms, and utilizing them to the best of their abilities, and like knowing, again, it's not bad. Like, YouTube's not bad, podcasting isn't bad. Like, it depends on what you're doing. So something like you, Joe, where it's mostly like long form stuff, like, makes the most sense. It's kind of hard to condense like lots of thoughts and feelings and like complicated emotions into a 7-minute like super jazzed up video, right? So for you, like, podcasting makes sense. Like, this format makes sense. And if we were taking all the same content and putting it into a YouTube video, it would look and feel very different. But in this sort of like longer form, this is essentially a podcast, what we're doing, you know, podcast format, we're able to go a little bit deeper, talk about multiple topics, all these sorts of things. So okay. So in terms of like getting into podcasting for people out there, yes, Anchor is where I would start. So Anchor, it's a free app. You can, the cool thing about Anchor is that you can not only create within the app, so they allow you to just use your phone. If you want, you can just hold your phone up to your mouth, start talking, create your podcast. They have all these different tools, so you can do the editing right in your phone. You can add, you know, intro music. You can do all these different things. But on top of that, Anchor also pushes your stuff out to iTunes and to Spotify and to like all the different places. So it's kind of like a one-stop shop for everything podcasting. But what's nice is you can also kind of grow with it. So say you start off just doing it on your phone, and you know you're enjoying that, and you want to kind of step it up. You want to buy a microphone. You want to do a little bit more, or whatever that, you know, for whatever reason. You can actually upload to your Anchor account through a web browser, so you can actually, you know, create and edit the podcast on your computer if you wanted, and then upload it to your Anchor account, and it gets pushed out to your podcast across all the different places. So Anchor is definitely great. Like I said, they just got bought by Spotify, so they're like, now they're really like kicking into high gear in terms of innovating and things like that. They do have that ad model, which I'm not super familiar with because I don't use Anchor currently, but I do know that they have this like YouTube style ad model. You can start running ads in front of your podcast if you wanted to. And they have some really cool features where people can leave voice memos that you can also like insert into your podcast and things like that. So Anchor is definitely where I would start if you're like just looking to get started in podcasting.
Yeah. Would you, Ty, is there anything that you would say from a production standpoint that can make life easier? So Anchor is obviously huge.
Yep.
Whether it's podcast or YouTube, it sounds like the one commonality is cell phone is our friend, smartphone, Android or iPhone. I'm an Apple person, so that's just what I know. That's what I like. That's what I'm used to. You know, what would you say, broad strokes? Obviously, we can get into the details. And guys, if you do want to have Ty reach out to you or have a conversation about equipment specific, Ty is a great resource. And I would actually encourage you. I'll post his email here if you want to reach out to him directly. But what would you say, man, equipment wise, what should people have or consider growing into? Notice how I said growing into
Yeah.
it. You don't need it off the bat,
Yeah.
people. I look at this. Okay. Headphones
Yeah.
from like
Yeah.
2008.
I can hear Joe just fine. Hopefully
Yeah,
you can
and
too.
you know what I mean? It works. So what would you say can be things, production stuff that folks can grow into for either podcast or YouTube? Because I'm assuming your microphone is both for YouTube and for podcast.
Yeah, I do use it for YouTube videos occasionally.
There you go.
So I would say this is kind of a cheating answer. I'm going to answer your question specifically, but I would say that knowledge is the most important thing, right? So like again, spending the time to invest in like learning specific things. Like the reason why this shot here looks good, Joe, like part of it is yes, because I have this like fancy camera right here, but a lot of it is also like the balance of this light versus the balance of my backlight versus the overhead light, which is all very specific levels. There's lots of like little knowledgey things that make a huge difference versus if I just sent you all this same stuff, Joe, to your house and said like, here, set it up. No offense, but it wouldn't look the same, right? It's just not, because like there's a knowledge element there. So I'd say like spend the time like researching, no matter what, when it comes to audio. I just have to say this before I start giving like micro recommendations. Your environment is really important. So like you need to just like before you start recording anything, just kind of stop and think for a second, like listen to the room and listen. Do you hear the refrigerator? Do you hear an air conditioning unit? I'm kind of a bad example. I have a fan on overhead, which I probably shouldn't be doing, but you probably can't hear it. But just like listen, like is like your computer really loud? If you hear your fans like kick up on your laptop, like all these like little things can really make a big difference for both YouTube and for podcasting. So like paying attention to your environment. For YouTube, you know, using window light, natural light, like that's kind of the best way to get started. But yeah, start with your phone, and then for audio, yeah, like the first thing I'd buy for everybody would definitely be some sort of a microphone. For YouTube or for podcasting, that's going to make the biggest difference, I think, in your like the way that you're received. Again, because the quality of your phone is so good from a video standpoint. But when it comes to stepping up your audio, I'm gonna send Joe some links, and actually here I'll send it to you right now, Joe. Yeah, I'll send it to you right now, and you can put in the thing. There's a wide variety of microphones in terms of how much they cost, value, whatever. I would say like pretty much any microphone that you have, the biggest rule of thumb is that you want to have it 6 to 8 inches from your mouth is kind of like the general rule of thumb. So about the length of your hand like this. That's kind of like about as far away as you want to be. Any further, it's going to start feeling really distant. You're going to get a lot of echo from the room. If you're too close, it kind of sounds like you're swallowing it. You get a lot of like lower. So anyway, good mic placement is important, but any sort of like USB mic you find on Amazon will be better than nothing. The thing you want to really avoid, especially when it comes to YouTube, is maybe you set up your phone against the window and then you need to back up 6, 7, 8 feet to be in frame properly, right? Now you're 8 feet away from your microphone versus if you buy like a cheap little lav mic or something like that, or even if you just have a mic like this kind of on a desk near you or something like that, there's a big difference between 8 feet away from the microphone versus 8 inches away from the microphone. So whatever you need to do to get some sort of a microphone close to your mouth, the Apple earbuds, again, is it the greatest quality microphone in the universe? No, but it's only 6 to 8 inches from your mouth versus right now your laptop, which is probably 2 or 3 feet, right? So that makes like a huge difference. So, did you Joe dropped the link in?
I did.
I would say $50 is kind of like a good starting place to go for a microphone. You can kind of find one in that range. Without getting too much into the specifics, if you like Joe was saying, if you do want some more specific advice based on your situation, based on what you're trying to create, I do offer like tech coaching sessions is what I call them. So if you shoot me an email and you have some specific things you want to go over, we can spend an hour doing kind of whatever you want. If you want some gear advice, if you want me to help you set some stuff up, if you want to start a YouTube channel, you want some advice on whatever it may be. If you want some really specific advice, I can do that for you. But
yeah, and that's a resource that is a help to you all. Because if you're starting a business, there's going to be a season where you are the chief everything officer and you'd have to do it all. You are the production crew, you are the tech guru and everything else. But,
you can learn everything you need to learn on YouTube. I'm not joking. You can learn everything you need to learn. I've spent hundreds of thousands of hours, like culling through and watching all these different things over the course of 10 years. So I have like 10 years worth of knowledge, like banked up here, but you can find, it's all out there. If you have the time, to invest in going to find all these different things. But that's where like education like this comes in handy, is that yes, it's for free out there on YouTube, but you're basically, you can like, or you can pay to have it all condensed for you, right? Those are kind of like the two different options. But I would say, especially if you are just getting started or you don't have a lot of money to invest in education or things like that, spend the time, learn how to use YouTube effectively, start subscribing to some channels that are going to be beneficial to you. And just like really invest your time doing that instead of watching Netflix at night, watching, Tiger King. Spend
Guilty.
3 hours watching YouTube videos about podcast mics, whatever, that's my life. So yeah.
It goes back to look at what people are already doing, right? And message them. The only reason why I'm even on this is the production thing that I'm on right now. It's called platform. There we go. Is because I saw another coach do an interview. I had never met him before, and was kind of like, I just messaged him on Facebook. Hey, what platform do you guys use? They're super kind, and that's the reason why I did it. And it goes back to, how do you create this YouTube channel? How do you do the podcast? Find the people that are already doing it, that are like 10 steps ahead of you, 5 steps ahead of you, 1 step ahead of you. Learn from them. Talking with a guy like Tyler, who does this day in and day out. If you're able to afford the price and afford the time to really learn from him, that's well worth it, because of the amount of headache and anxiety, frankly, that you can avoid.
And honestly, like making a lot of bad gear decisions. I feel bad sometimes. I see people, they'll be like, hey, I bought all this stuff. I spent, thousands of dollars or whatever on all these things. And I'm just like, I wouldn't have bought that, right? Like, you could have got it for a lot cheaper. Or I would have invested more in something else or something like that, like those types of things. And it, it sounds silly, but like that's real. Like, that's a real thing.
Dude, I almost did that with this conversation. Remember? Like, Tyler literally sent me that same link, guys. And unfortunately, with the COVID stuff, like, a lot of these products are, supply chain.
Oh yeah, I should probably say that. Yeah.
Like, hey, supply chain is currently a little bit crazy with,
because everybody's doing this from their house now.
Exactly. And I found, of course, because I'm now the expert, I found another link on Amazon, because 2-day shipping, and I pay for Amazon Prime, blah, blah, blah. And I sent it to Tyler, and I'm like, hey man, how about these ones? And they could be here by the time we connect. And he's like, please don't. Just
that's
reconsider.
True. That's what happened.
Just consider. Don't
there's a happy middle ground. I'm a bad example of like buying the most expensive thing because like I just like want to say like I can't buy a better podcast mic. Like, this is it, and I'll never have to buy a new one.
Right.
But you don't need to do that. That's like my personality, and it works for me because like I make a living off of these things, so it's a little bit different. But you also don't want to buy something super cheap that's going to break, or it's going to be low quality, or it's just like not going to work. Sometimes it's worth it to like wait, save up a little bit more money to buy one step up, save an extra $50 or whatever to buy this thing, as opposed to having to buy 3 of the cheap Chinese ones because they keep shorting out on you or whatever, like those types of things. So I'm trying to think if I have anything else. I had a list of things over here. In terms of like if you wanted to do podcasting and you didn't want to go the Anchor route, Buzzsprout is a really good resource. They have they have some free versions and things like that. And then if you wanted to do interviews for podcasting, the one that I suggest, it's called Zencaster. I'll put it in the chat over here. It's a good platform, and they have a free option in terms of doing like remote interview calls. And the reason I like Zencaster is because it records the audio independently on each person's computer, and then it uploads them at the end. So even if you have connection issues or slow internet or whatever, it's not going to impact your recording. So those are two little,
which is very helpful
in the day and
age, whenever the internet is being used by everybody and their mother.
Yes, literally everybody and their mother. Yes.
And yet it goes to show that yet here we are, we're still able to fully function and still run businesses, still run government, still run church, everything.
Yeah.
From this platform. So this is why it's like, guys, if you're in business, even if you have a hobby and you just want to make a little bit of money, like whenever a guy like you says, hey, I made $3,000, like that's a vacation. Like that's vacation money right there. You didn't have to do anything. You created a video. And if you're clear on your budget, this is why it's so important to know where you're going. Hey, if we create this video, what do we want to cause from it? Do I want to make money off of it? Do I just want to bless people? Do I want to have fun with it? Because there's ways that, especially in this day and age where YouTube and podcasting are really being monetized for.
Here's how I think you need to look at it. You need to think of it as 3 years down the road from now. So like when you first get started, it's really easy to get discouraged. Like I said, you post a video, you spend all this time working on it. I bought this fancy stuff, whatever, and it got 12 views, 20 views, whatever, right? And that can be discouraging and makes you want to quit and stop.
Yeah.
But the way I think about it is like, okay, let's say that video is only getting 3 views a day, right? Let's say. But then say 3 years from now, you have 100 videos that are all getting 3 views a day, right? And let's say that all three of those people are people who never knew about you before. That means that 3 years from now, you're getting 300, 3,000. I'm really bad at math. You're getting a large number of people every single day who are viewing your face, learning about your product, learning about your service, whatever it may be, every single day for free for this investment you've been making over time, right? But let's say that jumps up to 10 views a day, 30 views a day. Like as you continue to do it, as you can start seeing how this thing starts snowballing to the point where I should check. Let me here while we're talking. I'm gonna check my analytics on my YouTube channel because it's just crazy. Like that. It's a long-term play. You've got to just trust that like 3 years, 5 years from now, that you're just going to have a bunch of people who are viewing your stuff and seeing your content every single day, and it's just kind of working for you in the background as the Google machine is just churning along.
Well, and this goes back, I mean, it's interesting, in the day and age where we view technology to be such a way to grow and compound business so quickly overnight, it's proof that actually slow and steady would still always, including with technology, wins the race, guys.
Yeah.
Like, how do we grow? What does success look like? So the tortoise and the hare.
Yep, 100%. And YouTube's not going anywhere. Google's not going anywhere. And if anything, like cable and like all these traditional ways of marketing and like reaching people are dying. As we've seen through this pandemic, reaching people via video, and it can have huge impact. And a good example is, have you been watching any of the John Krasinski, his like YouTube show? Right.
News.
Yeah, some good news. John Krasinski, obviously, he's a big deal. He's a famous actor, but he's making this YouTube series with it looks like 2 webcams, and that's probably it, and some like
iPhone kind of thing.
Right, and maybe somebody with some knows how to edit, but like it's not even the editing that makes it good. It's just like having a good idea, doing whatever. So like don't again, it's I'm the tech guru, we're here to like talk about tech and stuff, but I'm trying to say the tech shouldn't be the first thing that you think of, right? You kind of have to, it's there, but it's more important that you're like creating good stuff and that you're starting to at least think about these things now, because it's just going to become more and more and more valuable as time goes on. Okay, so on my YouTube channel, which full disclosure, I haven't posted a YouTube video in the past month. So in the last 28 days, I've posted 0 videos. Okay,
as you've been doing it for other people, though.
Right. Yes. That's because right now I am managing 5 YouTube channels.
Yeah.
Just not really my own. But in the past month, with having posted 0 videos, I have 19,000 views and 1.3 thousand watch time hours on my YouTube channel. And I don't have like a really big, very big YouTube channel, right? And I haven't posted a video. 19,000 views. That's just crazy. And over the life...
that's for this month? That's the month of May?
This is the last 28 days. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
19,000 views. And this one video that's my most popular video has 6,000 views. And I made that video on May 12th, 2017. So in the last 28 days, it has got 7,000 views, right? Yeah. So again, it's a slow game. It's 4 years ago, I never thought about 2020 like, oh, will this be a good thing for me? Yeah. But it's still, cranking along, and that's the way you've got to think about it. Otherwise, you'll get discouraged. And that's the one thing I also like. I want to always preface it with that, is like, if you just go out there and how to make a YouTube channel and I can get all these views, and you go and you start creating stuff and you're getting 20 views, it's okay. Like, again, long-term growth. Over the course of my lifetime of my channel, for what it's worth, I have 965,000 views.
A lot of people.
Over like 4 years. Yeah. So
and you have not met that number of people in real life.
No, and this isn't like my
They just come to
primary.
you.
This isn't my primary thing, right? This is something I've always kind of done as a fun hobby, and it's actually what, by just doing this for fun, allows me to do it for other people professionally and like not for fun, by like learning how to do it this way. So anyway, all that to say, it's a long-term play.
Yeah. Is Toby asked the really good question. What's the optimal upload schedule for the algorithms? Like it's, from my experience, it seems like it depends on the platform. But what's like your take on?
I would say that
schedule?
Consistency is key no matter what. So it's all about kind of expectations. So you want people to know, like, expect, okay, if I upload once a month, try and be as consistent with that as possible. What you don't want to be is inconsistent. So you maybe you'll upload a video, which again, don't do what I say, not what I do. You upload a video and then you don't upload a video for like 3 months, and then you upload another video and then nothing happens for 6 months or whatever. That's not ideal. So in terms of algorithms, I would say like once a week for YouTube is kind of not minimum, but like once a week, once every other week, that'd probably be minimum. But it's more important, again, that you're just consistent. I don't think every day, again, for YouTube, it used to be uploading every day. There was like, the algorithms change. And that's the other thing too, why subscribing to these YouTube channels of people whose jobs it is to keep up with those things is good, because our algorithm is always changing. What used to be important isn't as important now. So now what's more important, again, is audience retention time and total watch time in terms of minutes. So again, with YouTube, you'll learn that you can go into the back end and you can see there's a little graph, and it shows you as the video goes on where people drop off. And it's always the first 10 seconds of the video, the graph drops off like crazy, and it goes from 100 down to 60% in the first 20 seconds. And then the goal is to kind of keep it as steady as possible after that. But yeah, if you learn how to use algorithm, the YouTube analytics backend can be very powerful.
Yeah. Ty, thanks so much everyone for this has been like a really good like hour-long discussion of some great questions. So like I said, guys, I know I posted Tyler's email address, and I want you all to feel free to reach out to him. There's a reason why I asked him to be part of this conversation, was because I trust him, I respect him. He's obviously very knowledgeable in what he's talking about, but more importantly, he's not one of those people that's going to sell you on anything. He's a coach who has great resources, great knowledge, a great heart, and he just cares about people because he himself has had to do this work, right? Like, Ty, if there's one thing I know about your story, it's that overnight success was not the reality. It's the slow and steady has won the race for you and Ash and your family, and has allowed you guys to have the life that you have, that allows you to share your skills with both married couples and businesses and individuals, which is transforming their worlds. And so it's like, guys, look at Ty, see what he's done, follow him. I want to just encourage everybody, like, one of the ways that you can help these channels, whether it's a podcast or a YouTube channel, is rate them, like leave feedback. That helps the as I have staked claim, the juices of these platforms. If you rate somebody and you subscribe to somebody's platform, that helps them get their name out there. So one of the best things you can do is check out Ty's Tech Line, go to his YouTube channel, hear him out, see what's going on. He's constantly, may not be 28 days, maybe 28 days late, but hey, I'll tag him in this one. This will count for his month.
That's right.
His month upload. You're welcome, Ty.
That's right.
But I really want to encourage people, act on these things now.
I think that's great, Joe. And like I said, I think part of the reason I'm so passionate about YouTube and why I love talking about it so much is because, again, it literally is how I've learned how to do. I joke about it. It's like, oh, how do you learn how to do that? I'm like, YouTube. But for real, the way I'm able to like support my family and do all these things, like for a long time indirectly, was completely because of YouTube, and now very directly because we've transitioned from doing primarily weddings into now we actually just like manage YouTube channels and podcasts and content creation for all these different people. So yeah, but anyway, without YouTube, I would never be where I am today. So I'm really passionate about it. And I know there's people out there, whatever niche you're in, whatever industry you have a business in, that can find benefit from what you have to offer. And YouTube is a really great vehicle to get the information in front of them. So I think that if you're able to invest the time and you learn these platforms, like how to use them strategically, you can make a really big impact too. So yeah.
Or just hire a guy like Ty.
Yeah.
And
or you can hire me to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, why not? If you know that you don't have the capacity, but you do have the budget, why not? Well, I mean, honestly, what's holding you back? Because if you have somebody who's coaching you through it, that's how we can know what we're doing is working, or if it's not working, what shifts need to be made. And it's a lot easier whenever you have somebody who has experience and some tenure to it, because they know the things that most of us don't know, kind of thing. And so engage in that conversation, and all of us have something to offer, which is what I really want to encourage people. Like, if you don't know what can I do, what can I talk about, what can I share about, ask people around you, what am I good at? Like, Mom, Dad, what stuff do you like about me? And maybe don't ask that if you don't like what they may say, but somebody around you may know. And why not? This is a time where I'm telling everybody, every business is starting at ground zero post-COVID, because even the businesses that have been around are starting a new way of being. There's less bodies in the buildings. There's a difference in the hours, and there's a difference in the products and the ways in which business is conducted. So why wait? Why not just go now, start now, build now? Because everybody is having to shift. And if you can really show up well in this season of uncertainty and a season of worry and anxiety and doubt, man, you're going to ride the wave of growth and success that will come with time. Like, it will. These things do change if we're willing to actually show up ourselves in what we stand for, who we want to be, and what we want to communicate. So,
and I always say, if nothing else, if nobody ever watched your video, you learn so much about whatever topic it is you're interested in, whatever thing you're passionate about. You'll learn more by like trying to articulate it in a way that you're conveying it to somebody else than you ever would any other way. The best way to learn is to teach, right? So that's why. So even if you're just want to just kind of challenge yourself to do something, to just document your life more, like whatever it may be, there's value in YouTube and in just content creation in general that goes well beyond like the numbers and the algorithms and all these different things. Like, just challenging yourself to do that. And maybe you're not a creative person, but this is kind of pushes you into a creative realm or whatever. Like, I think there's so many benefits to getting out there and just going for it. And why not? Why not?
Have some fun in the process.
That's right. Honestly, look at Joe. Joe's what do you call yourself? A relationship coach, mentor, whatever, right? And here we are, transformational coach. Look, here we are talking about YouTube and podcasting and stuff, right? And hopefully helping people out. So
absolutely. Well, it goes back to whenever the reason why I know what I want to talk about is because I know what I want to create for people. Is that I want to create answers. I want to provide clarity for people in subjects that people are not clear on. YouTube and podcasting, I'm not clear on it. So chances are there's probably some other business owners, stay-at-home parents that are trying to start up a business. I was talking to a parent earlier, and part-time, killing it because she's able to work from home, and killing it because what she's doing online is just so effective and so good, and it still lets her be home with her kids. That's awesome. Why, oh my goodness, imagine how life will look very different if the technology and the awareness and the growth and the time that she's committed wasn't something that she actually showed up for day in and day out. And so I'm like, hey, I'm committed to just having people glean from people like yourself, man, who can be trusted resources and be really cared for well. So Ty, I so appreciate you, man. I really am grateful for all that you have to share. Friends, check out Tyler Harrington. You will not regret it. He's been a blessing to me, and I know he would be for your business. So if you're looking for a videographer, if you're getting married, and then your future, whenever that dust settles, like
if anybody ever gets married again,
seriously, right? But if you're also wanting to say, hey, I don't know where to start. Can I have an hour's worth of your time? Like, reach out to Ty.
Let's do it.
Type in your email again for folks, because I want them to have it available for them. So, like I said, everyone, thank you so much for diving into this Real Talk with Joe. Ty, thank you so much, brother.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Let's have some fun together. Take care, guys.